Well, you did say you wanted to join in on this.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're sort of coming full circle because I think the last time we made a video together was the unveiling of Sonic Mania and Forces and all of that travesty of an event.
Actually, it was one of the Pokemon movie commentaries.
Oh, that's true. Well, the time before that we did a video
Yeah, the time
together.
before that it was.
Yeah. Oh, God. And it's been a while.
Wait, does this mean this is your last appearance? No, don't go!
No, I hope not. But yeah, so I'm just like...
Well, I can always bring you in for Forces.
Oh, that's true. If I play it. Oh, I wonder if I'm going to have to go back and watch that video and see if I was as negative back then as I am now, which is pretty negative towards Forces.
Well, I can assure you I've gotten a lot more negative towards it, but we can save that for if we do Forces together.
Yes.
For right now, we've got to jump on the hype train a month later than everyone else.
That's all right.
For Sonic Mania.
Well, it's weird, right? Because you sort of expect, I mean, with a Sonic game that everyone by now would have decided that it's actually awful, but no, not so much. And I feel like the miracle here is it's actually just a really good game.
It is a good game, but it's not a flawless game. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But just for a quick summary and a reminder for people who didn't watch the old video, plug. Your thoughts on Sonic leading up to Mania?
Well, okay, so I got into the franchise as a kid. I played the Sonic and Knuckles collection, so Sonic 3 and Knuckles basically on the computer, and Sonic R, and I think the first modern Sonic game that I played was Sonic Heroes. So I sort of, as I grew older, I realized, oh, wait a second, there's a lot that I don't really like so much about modern Sonic, and that's not everything, but I definitely think, for the most part, I mean, I do prefer the classic gameplay. I like lots of things about the modern games, but I wouldn't say there's any, maybe colors, but there's no modern game that I'd be like, yeah, this is really, really good stuff.
Not even Generations?
Generations didn't do it for me as much as I know for a lot of people, Generations, and it's definitely like a good game. It just maybe the timing was wrong. Maybe I just played it. I don't know. I think just the throwback thing didn't really do it for me, and that's kind of the same and kind of not the same with Mania. I think, you know, we can sort of agree ahead of time that it's at its best when it's doing new things, or maybe you disagree, but
No, I agree completely.
yeah. So yeah, on the whole, back when we looked at Mania and Forces, I was like, oh my god, I'm so excited for Mania. I've been waiting for this the entire time I've known the franchise, and I think I was probably more negative towards Forces, or apprehensive.
By comparison,
Yeah.
probably.
How about you? How were you a year or two ago?
I was more positive about Forces, but that's because when I joined the series, it was thanks to you. You introduced me with Sonic Rush on a bus trip back from like Canberra, I think.
Oh yeah, I think I
Like,
remember
for school-
that. Yeah.
For a school camp.
Yeah.
So I've been a lot more used to the boost era gameplay than you have. That's just what I started with. So when I saw they were doing a new boost formula game for Forces, at first I was really excited for it. And then Classic showed up and it's like, oh no, not again.
Yeah. And I think that was sort of the general, like, if they're gonna do the classic Sonic throwback, why are they also doing the classic Sonic throwback in the new modern Sonic game? Like, I feel like they rely too heavily on it, and I think that's a lot of the fan base has been up in arms. Like, everyone's only liking this game because it's classic Sonic. It's like, no, it's because it's actually a well developed, well designed game.
Yeah, and by comparison, Forces and a lot of the boost era gameplay has been relying on crutches. Some crutches, I'm fine with them being in the game, though I'd wish they wouldn't. Like Unleashed, I'm personally fine with the Werehog. But the new crutch at the moment is 2D for most of the game, and it feels like, especially for the modern Sonic eras, oh look, you're in 3D, you get to go really fast. Oh look, you're in 2D, you've got a platform now.
And it's sort of...
There's no
it's just not
mix
as
between
fun.
the two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if there was 3D platforming and 2D speed sections, maybe I'd be more fine with it if the 2D was still there, but it feels like 3D, run fast, 2D, platform.
Yeah. And I think as well, the engine doesn't really lend it. Anyway, we're talking. We're going to go through the whole franchise now and tear it apart.
Especially seeing as we've only got an hour to do this.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd say as a generalization, there's lots of things about the modern formula that work really well. I don't feel like they've nailed it in quite some time, or ever maybe, but
the boost formula comes the closest compared to the adventure formula, which was a little bit too floaty at times, and a lot better than that side series of the franchise.
Yeah. The boom, which will not be named. Oh shit. Yeah.
Back to the go game.
So, I mean, we're at this. I don't think anyone's gonna come out and say that it's not a good game. Like,
I will openly admit that it is a good game, but it's not a flawless game. There are little issues, some of which I'm fine with them not doing, though it would have been that nice cherry on top.
Sure.
Others that, this is something that should have been left in the 90s.
Well, where do we want to start?
Let's start with the first opinions of the first run through, because we both started the run blind. Like, we knew what some of the levels were going to be, but we had no idea what the level designs were going to be like. So how was your first run of Mania?
Well, my first, I was with a friend of mine who does not care for Sonic at all, and I was just like, oh my god, it's midnight, I wonder if it's come out. And he's like, oh, okay. So I sat down and I'm just like, had that initial holy crap reaction and downloaded it. And I think I played through to the end of Studiopolis, and I just remember it was just a roller coaster. Like the whole, and I think that to me is what. Even, I mean, because the nostalgic throwbacks, it was cool. Like I said, I played the most of Sonic 3 and Knuckles when I was younger, so it was cool to sort of see new Hydrosity, new Flying Battery, and all of that. But what really, sort of the most nostalgic thing about it for me, or the thing that I feel like they really nailed, was just that it was a roller coaster. You were doing one thing or one set of game mechanics, and then bam, you were in Blue Sphere, and bam, you were in the special stage, and you're in...
Bam, you're in Puyo Puyo Pop.
Exactly. I think that to me just absolutely epitomized. It just literally chucked you down into it, and you're like, oh, okay, we're doing this now. Like, it really nailed that sort of wow factor of you're getting so many things thrown at you, and you're not... it's almost you're jumping into something and it's really fun, and then before you can even register it, you're doing something else that's really fun. And so my
if I can just pause you for 1 second
life.
about it, the way you phrased it, and I do agree with it to an head as well completely, it actually kind of reminded me of Rush and Rush Adventures in that front, honestly. Like, if the whole roller coaster aspect of, oh no, now you're doing this. Oh, now you're doing tricks in the air. Oh, now you're holding a balloon going forward. Oh, now you're going to try and avoid fire traps in this air palace thing.
Yeah.
Things like that. Oh, now you're snowboarding because, why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will admit that what makes Mania better over Rush and Rush Adventures is the distinct lack of bottomless pits.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, my initial reaction was just... I felt like I was having so many things thrown at me first playthrough that, you know, I didn't have time to register or even like really criticize. I was just having fun the whole time.
Same here, honestly.
Yeah, go on.
For me, it's, again, the exact same thing. I didn't get it at midnight. I was asleep at midnight.
Like a normal person.
Yeah, like a normal person. Then you told me that it was out. I thought it was actually coming out the next day because we would be ahead of the US in that front. So I didn't know it was out yet. And so when you told me, hey, that it was out, I quickly got it when I could. And yeah, that whole roller coaster effect that came into play. Like, oh look, now we're in Green Hill Act 1, now Act 2. Now wait, something new. Why, where's this cave level in Green Hill Zone? Wait, why am I now playing Puyo Puyo Pop... Sorry, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine after taking out the Death Egg Robot as the first boss battle?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
It was just... I mean, I think a remix is as accurate as a word that you can say, and that's... I mean, upon going back to it, something that I realized, it's like, there are... I wouldn't be surprised if there are elements from, like, every single stage of the classic games just, like, intermingled in there, like... They just...
Well, they've started development, especially on the older stages, by just grabbing the old levels and then moving pieces around for them. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Lava Reef Act 2, you can find, if you use debug mode, you can find the Super Emerald's Altar, for example.
Well, you haven't done a Knuckles playthrough yet, have you?
I'm working on a Knuckles run at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's definitely not something that goes unused.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, if there's a version of it that is used and another version of it that's unused, just in the level layout.
Sure. I get what you mean. Yeah. But yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me that they just grabbed everything. I also feel like they used a lot of this because for whatever legal reasons. I think it's to do with the soundtrack that they can't port Sonic 3 and Knuckles, or they can't remake it. I don't know if you know more about that than I do.
I do.
Yeah, go on.
The reason for it, because of the rumors of it being the soundtrack was done by Michael Jackson, and because you can hear things like his signature, I can't make my voice go that high, but...
He.
No, the... Oh!
Yeah.
Sound that he does.
Yeah.
I can't make my voice go that loud. But you can hear that sometimes throughout the Sonic 3 soundtrack, so... Like, I think it's that front why they can't do Sonic 3, right. But at least on the plus side, we got the next best thing with Sonic Mania, because with the exception of Green Hill and Chemical Plant, all the levels that have been remixed are Sonic 3, Knuckles, and CD.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, I feel like they've really sort of integrated as much of Sonic 3 and Knuckles as possible into Mania because they can't remake it.
Yet. Hopefully that changes soon.
Yeah, well, hopefully it does. But yeah, and that, I mean, as... obviously, that's my bread and butter, so I really appreciated that. Even if, I mean, this sort of plays into... I feel like the overall theme of my complaints is I wish there had been more new and less retread. Jumping into the special stages and seeing Blue Sphere for the first time was like, you know, another one of those holy crap moments, and then like...
And then you realised you lost your touch from Blue Sphere and kept failing the stages.
Well, there's that, but it was also like for the first... I'm not sure exactly how many stages there are, probably however many bonus icons there are. I think it's 30 or something like that, but of that...
I think it's 40 that you get the medals for, but then once you've done all 40, you actually unlock Blue Sphere normally, where it's like... Yeah. If you were to plug the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge into Sonic 1 back in the Mega Drive, where you've just got infinite Blue Spheres.
Yeah. Either way, I think the fact that the Blue Sphere stages that they threw at you for the first however many were just the stages that you'd already played in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And obviously, I mean, like I said, they hadn't been able to remake that yet, so obviously they wanted to do it and they wanted to include it to scratch that itch, but it was sort of just the same stages, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
and which is fine. Like, you know, especially for someone who hasn't played the classic games or whatever, doesn't make a difference. But I think the vast majority of people who are playing Sonic Mania have played at least one of the classic Sonic games, if not all of them. So it was just sort of like oh, okay. It was cool the first 2 times, but it was like, right, now I've got to play through another 5 stages that, don't get me wrong, it's cool to see them again, but I want more new.
At least on the plus side, with some exceptions excluded, a lot of the returning levels are so heavily remixed to the point that they are basically new levels. Like it or not, Chemical Plant Act 2 is brand new.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, there is... I think the only thing that they've reused for that was the textures, like the pipes and that. Everything else was built from the ground up, basically. The background's completely new. The jumping toxin things that you have to pump fluids into, they're brand new. The DNA lift things are brand new.
Yeah.
Dr. Robotnik's Mean Beam Machine as the Act 2 boss is brand new.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Like, I didn't feel... When I was playing those stages, they felt aesthetically familiar, but they didn't feel like I was just playing the same stage. I mean, there were some sort of areas within those stages that were obviously just like directly lifted, but
yeah,
in general, I felt like I was playing a new classic Sonic game. I guess I just feel like I wish it looked new and different to reflect that.
I'm fine with the way it looks because it does look like a long lost Sonic Saturn game.
Yeah,
which I'm perfectly down with. But I think in terms of the worst culprits of this feels way too similar, would have to be Green Hill Zone because it's Green Hill Zone,
of course,
and Hydrocity. I think they are the 2 worst offenders of this.
Well, I find it interesting that you say Hydrocity, because with the exception of like that first little area that you fall into at the start, I didn't feel like much of I guess bits of the level layout, but I felt like that was pretty
because I played Sonic 3 recently, actually.
Sure.
Like Act 2 of Hydrocity was basically the same as it was from Sonic 3.
Yeah, fair enough.
So like that's what I mean. Like is. With the exception of the new boss battles and that,
yeah,
they feel like the worst offenders of this being basically the original level made a bit prettier.
Yeah. Speaking of boss battles, I know I feel like that's either a love 'em or hate 'em. I for one, I absolutely loved the boss battles. What was your take?
They're the weakest part of the game.
Yeah?
I like them, but there are some that go on way too long, and there are ones that you don't really know how you're supposed to fight them until you can make a lucky guess. I think we both know the worst offender of that one.
Yeah, the Silver Sonic bounced the balls up. I definitely agree. I was lost there. I had no idea, and then you kind of just randomly like oh, okay,
that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like my clue into it, because I actually asked you over Facebook what it was. I had an idea of what it was because the Silver Sonics kept spawning, but I just didn't put 2 and 2 together yet.
Yeah.
At the time. And the other, the Lava Reef Act 2 boss, that was an annoying as hell fight to do. Oil Ocean, enough said.
Yeah.
The bosses though go into a big issue I have with them. The thing that should have stayed in the 90s, that 10-minute time limit.
Sure.
A lot of the stages, especially Titanic Monarch, they go on for a long time, even if you're speedrunning.
Yeah.
So, I think I'm fine with the timer still being there, as it's still bragging rights, but dying once you get to 10 minutes, that should have stayed on the Mega Drive and Genesis.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't really mind. I guess I ran into the time limit maybe once or twice. So that's definitely not a complaint as far as I'm concerned. But what I will say is once you once you do have a time over, you go back to your previous checkpoint and you start again at like no time. And then it's like,
which
right.
is good at least, assuming you still have the life for it.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, the only times I came close to the being time overed were the bosses that actually lock you into the room, and if you die, you just go back to the room, like Lava Reef, Stardust Speedway, etc. They're the only times I came close to time overing. I never explicitly time overed, but it's something that I could see a lot of people struggling with.
Sure. I think that's fair enough. I guess it was just something that didn't really register on my radar, as it was just like, this is just a fact of classic Sonic. But I definitely, I think I agree with you. There's no real reason that they had to include that mechanic.
They probably had to for the Genesis games, because there might have been something that was keeping the Mega Drive from having over 10 minutes of time.
Sure.
They just couldn't program the counter, so that I can understand, but the PlayStation 4, PC, Xbox One, and Switch, they don't have that issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't think it's a deal breaker, but I don't think the mechanic really. I'm just trying to think if, like, from a game design perspective, it really adds anything, but I don't think it does.
Well, to give another example for it, one-ups, the live system, like in Mario, that, like, having them is not a deal breaker, but it's something that was meant for another purpose back in the older games to expand their life cycle, and that mechanic doesn't really need to exist now, at least in the form it took back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, sure.
It's that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
The only other issue I had with the bosses were, like, the worst offender for this one for me was Metallic Madness, where, okay, two issues for it, but I'll say the first one and before I go into the second one. Every time I had a few game overs in my first run, I didn't for my second run.
Yeah.
When I was going for the Chaos Emeralds, but when I did game over in a stage, it was really annoying to have to replay Act 1 just to get to Act 2 to get back to where I was.
Yeah, that was a frustration for me, especially with Flying Battery. I found first time I played that, especially for Oil Ocean, I cannot tell you how many times I had to replay that, because that boss gave
Oil
me
Ocean, Metallic Madness.
Yeah. I definitely think that was a big frustration.
Like, I'm fine with if I die, I have to restart the entire stage. That's fine. But can I at least not restart Act 2?
Yeah, exactly. Instead of going back and having to replay both acts. It was frustrating, I agree with you.
Yeah. The only other thing with the bosses were, a lot of the bosses were original, but later on to the game, they were basically taking the old bosses and slapping them back in.
Sure.
The Oil Ocean Octopus, it had a few new tricks to it, but it was the original Oil Ocean boss.
Yeah.
Metallic Madness Act 1 boss, that was the final boss from Sonic 1.
Yeah.
Just with a new Phase 2.
Yeah.
Like, things like that. The Titanic Monarch Act 1 boss as well was the final boss of Death Egg Zone, before you got to the real final boss of Death Egg Zone.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do agree with you there. I think, I don't know, I didn't really mind the rehashing when it came to the bosses. Maybe just because it was sort of nice to... I don't think there was ever an instance where they just did the boss. Like, I feel like there were always at least slight tweaks or things that made it new or interesting.
There were slight tweaks, yeah, don't get me wrong, but what was really jarring to me was that the first part of the game was all new bosses, and what new characters, what bosses were returning were so completely different from their original boss fight, it felt like a new boss, like Metal Sonic.
Yeah.
But I think after Metal Sonic, all the returning bosses felt way too similar to their original incarnations.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So
I did like all of the hard-boiled heavy fights. I liked in particular. Especially,
I will agree, except for one.
Which was the one you didn't like?
Lava Reef. The hitbox is just way too hard to hit.
Yeah, sure.
If you're trying to go for keeping all your rings, you are going to struggle with that fight.
Yeah.
I just took the hit, abused invincibility frames, just made sure I kept on getting at least one ring.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that it's sort of, I think all of the bosses fall down as soon as you sort of start taking that philosophy, which you can do. Like, you can just get hurt, attack the boss, get hurt, attack the boss.
Which saves a lot more time, because especially these new bosses, they adopt the more modern boss philosophy of, oh look, I'm going to do an extremely impressive attack. Oh no, I've left my weak spot open. Oh no, he hit me. Okay, I gotta reset myself. Oh look, here's an extremely impressive attacking move, etc.
Yeah.
Like, you wait for the thing to expose its weak point, you go for it. Whereas, like, the original Sonic bosses in that, if you knew how to time it, you could just get to a point where the boss can't hit you, hit it 8 times, it dies.
Yeah, sure.
I would have liked more bosses that were like that, rather than, look at my extremely impressive, oh no, you can hit me now.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I think the most appealing thing about the bosses, beyond all else, is that, like, I mean, if you look at the classic games, at the end of each zone, you fight Eggman in a mech. Or in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, in the Act 1 boss, you fight one of his robots. And then in the Act 2, you fight Eggman in a mech. With this, it was like you had no idea who you were going to be fighting at the end of the zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it was especially... the early stages really got you into that habit, because... the bosses were like, here's a remix of the Wrecking Ball from Green Hill.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the Death Egg Robot.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Here's a new chemical plant boss that uses this Mega Muck attack. Okay. Here's Puyo Puyo Tetra.
Yeah.
Not Tetris. Puyo Puyo Pop.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the presentation was something that really took us... I mean... the presentation in general is probably the next thing that we should talk about. But that
soundtrack.
The soundtrack is
that
great.
soundtrack.
The soundtrack is so much fun. I'd be interested. I want to look up how exactly he made it. If he was using Genesis sort of hardware or whatever, or...
This didn't sound like Genesis hardware. Sonic 4 Episode 1, that sounds like it was made on Genesis hardware. Just remixed.
But awful.
This sounds... okay, this sounds like he took the original song and went, how can we make this sound as good as it can with modern hardware?
Yeah, that's probably true.
Oh, this sounds so good.
No, the soundtrack was great. If there was one thing that that topped the soundtrack for me, it was just the visual presentation of the game. The fact that they upped the animations, or the amount of frames to match the games. I'm pretty sure it was 60 frames per second. It felt like 60 FPS.
Oh yeah, it was easily 60.
Yeah, so just all of the extra animations they added in, and just how smooth everything felt. It was really nice and colourful to look at.
Plus, as well, it adds... to go back into that, it feels like a long-lost Sega Saturn game. There are 3D models, but they're not high-res 3D models, and they're used sparingly. They're a lot more high-res than what a Sega Saturn can handle, but like Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles in the special stages, they look like they came from Sonic R.
Yeah.
They're a lot more detailed than Sonic R, but they look like they came from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that was sort of a really nice addition, is just the occasional little 3D bits, or which is funny. You wouldn't think that some of the things that made me the happiest about going back to 2D Sonic were the little 3D bits, but it was handled really intelligently, I think, on their part.
Used enough to make it stand out, but not too much that it feels out of place.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Like, if you look at in the stages, the bonus rings, or what do you call them? The special rings?
Yeah, the special rings.
Yeah, they're 3D models floating around, but you could look at them and be like, wait, are those sprites? Are those 3D models? Like, they don't look out of place there at all, even though they're around 2D sprites.
Yeah, plus the Eggman Tower in Stardust Speedway,
Yeah.
that's a 3D model.
Yeah.
And that just looks so good.
Yeah, no, I think just in general, I think that's actually one of the biggest strengths of this game is just the aesthetics, and that's something I don't think any 3D Sonic game has really been visually stunning since Sonic Unleashed, even. Like, I don't feel like Generations or even Forces looks as nice visually as Sonic Unleashed did.
It really depends on the way you're looking at it. Like, with Forces, it's relying more on the little touches, like a new lighting engine. That was what they bragged about with this new engine coming to it. But like Sonic Colors, I still find visually appealing just because of how different it looks. Like, every way you look at it, Tropical Resort, Sweet Mountain, Starlight Carnival, Planet Wisp, Aquarium Park, Asteroid Coaster, I think it is, and Terminal Velocity, they look so completely different that you would not believe they're all from the same game.
That's definitely very true. I think from an art design perspective, Sonic Colors is really up there. I think in terms of like the technical prowess, that's fine. Like, you can say Forces has a new lighting engine. I just feel like in terms of looking at it, like, a lot of it is too flat or like detailless. To me, Unleashed, or the HD versions of Unleashed, had that nice mixture of really interesting art design and actually looking like really, really well-rounded from a technical perspective and well done. Like, if you look if you compare that to Sonic 06, like, it's night and day. Sonic 06 looks awful, and Sonic Unleashed just looks stunning.
I'll defend Sonic 06, and I'm not going to say that openly. I will defend the visual stuff for Sonic 06 as early 360 PS3 games.
Sure, that's fair enough.
No, a lot of the games looked that bad back then, which, yeah, okay, I can let that slide a little bit. I'm not going to defend the gameplay. The gameplay's still shit.
Yeah. Yes.
Ugh.
Oh, well.
You haven't played it, have you?
No, I was thinking about downloading and trying to emulate it the other day, but then I was like, wait a second, I know you, so I'll probably just make you sit down and tolerate it with me for a bit, because I want to try it out.
Tolerate it? I'm stuck at the billiard ball puzzle. The game died for me at the billiard ball puzzle because when I want it to break, it can't break, and when I want it to behave, it doesn't want to behave.
Yeah. Well, either way, I feel like it's time. I feel like I have to at least play the game to I don't know, go on in life. And I need to finally know what it's all about to actually play it. Like, I've seen tons of gameplay because everyone and their dog has played it and shat on it, but
not to mention, it's the game that keeps on giving with glitches. The last time it got booted up in my house, I was having a bunch of friends over who just wanted to have a try of it, and that was when I first saw that it was possible to infinitely grind on a rail, so I just won't dismount from it.
Right.
And I need to see if she recorded it, but one person I knew recorded it, and you could hear me saying, I had no idea this existed. Like, I was genuinely completely flabbergasted that this glitch existed.
Yeah. And I think, sort of getting back to Mania, that's something that...
The good game.
Yeah, that's something that they sort of don't have to worry. I mean, admittedly, it's like, alright, you guys made a really, in my opinion, really well-designed game, but it's definitely not as complicated as making a 3D Sonic game.
It's not, and at this point now, I think we can safely say they know what they're doing with classic Sonic. Sega needs to just let go of the reins on them, because they've ported Sonic CD and made the only version of Sonic CD you should play now. They made that a thing. They've done it to Sonic 1 and 2, and they've now done this. at this point, Sonic fans believe they can do no wrong.
Yeah.
Sega should now be able to trust them.
Yeah. I think my only concern is that, and I think I might have said this to you before, that the Sega execs are going to look at this and be like, oh, this is selling really well because of classic Sonic, because of nostalgia. Do more remix stages, do more of this. And it's like, no, it's at its best when it's actually doing new stages, new enemies, new things.
Yeah, and the way I phrased it to you lots of times, because I remember the conversation, you said that, and what I looked at was Sega executives going, oh, this is selling really well. Oh, our 3D games aren't selling well. Kill that one, and we are only making 2D stuff now, which I think that will give them an excuse to be lazy at times, because, like you said,
Sure.
It doesn't take as much effort to make a 2D game as it does a 3D game, and I'm not dissing anyone who makes 2D games, but there is a lot more that goes into a 3D game than a 2D game.
Yeah.
So, and I like the boost era gameplay. Give me more of that, please.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know how I feel about it. I think if what they really need to do is they need to get some new blood in there, and if there's anything that Sonic Mania has proven, it's that Sonic team are tired. They've been working on the same franchise for like 25 years. They're sick of it. Most of those devs have been there for, 10, 15 years, and it's just like, I mean, you can't really fault them for not being impassioned and not putting in their best work a lot of the time, because you'd be so sick of pumping out Sonic games every couple of years by this point.
Couple of years.
Well, for a time it was every year they would have a new release.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I mean, they've sort of since what the last time that a 3D Sonic game came out was Sonic Lost World, I believe, and that was back in
Boom.
Yeah,
It
but
was Rise of
but
Lyric.
they weren't. They don't count. And before that, you've got Sonic Generations, which is 2011. Sonic Colors was 2010. Sonic Unleashed was 2008. So they've slowed down their release schedule from how it was in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and the other thing with how, like I said, they need fresh blood in them. The best example I can point to is his old rival, Mario.
Yeah.
For the Wii U, he was playing it really safe. Super Mario 3D Land and 3D World, yeah, okay, there were inklings of new ideas in there, but it was those were very safe games. The new Super Mario games, they were very safe. The moment Miyamoto's apprentice, if you like, takes over, we get Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
Which was like a shot of adrenaline into Mario.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like another minority opinion, but I actually really liked Super Mario 3D World. That's actually the only Mario game that I've ever. I've almost 100%ed it. I've like 99.9%ed that game.
I like 3D World 2, and especially over 3D Land, it has got a lot more original stuff in it. But it's still in that camp of, yeah, we're playing it safe.
Oh no,
not
it's
as
definitely safe. It is
but-
definitely very safe.
Not to mention, I'm getting sick and tired of referencing Super Mario Bros. 3. World's better.
Yeah. Well, like that's something that I was thinking of. I saw this a video on YouTube, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like the idea of having like a Mario Mania. And can you imagine if instead of New Super Mario Bros. With that like pseudo 3D sort of thing, if they just pumped like out a Super Mario World Mania kind of game, like that would be great. Just a random thought.
That would be really interesting. Though I don't think the remaking original levels would work quite as well here because, well, for a Mario Mania, because what can you remix about Mario levels?
That's
That's
true.
not just Super Mario Maker.
Yeah.
where you've now got World 1-1 with 3 giant Bowsers blocking the flagpole.
No, I get what you mean. Even just like an all new sort of game in that style would be good to see. And I think that's what they've got to do for Sonic Mania next. At least in my opinion, is they've got to go all in with the originality. Give us another playable character. Give us, give us Sonic 4 basically.
Like I said to, 2 things like I said to you. One, that Sonic Mania is basically Sonic 4 in all but name.
Yeah, that's true.
And the thing that would have been the cherry on top, Classic Amy.
Yeah.
Unlockable Classic Amy that they kept secret, when it would just be that cherry on top of okay, we've got Classic Sonic, Classic Tails, Classic Sonic and Tails, Classic Knuckles, Classic Knuckles and Classic Knuckles.
Yeah.
That's the only way to play Knuckles' campaign now, is Knuckles and Knuckles mode.
Yeah.
But then just having it of, oh, you've got all the medals in Blue Spheres? Okay. Play as Classic Amy.
Yeah. And I definitely, I think that's a pretty obvious move, especially if you look at like Sonic Advance. And I'm disappointed that they didn't at least having Amy in the game. Like you had Fang and Bean and Bark. And
they had Amy in the game as
a little doll
boss
thing.
part of Metallic Madness Act 2.
But that doesn't count. I don't know. I thought it was, her omission was definitely noticed by me.
Yeah, same here.
Like,
plus, as well, what could be really good is if that team took the fan game approach of what if these newer characters were in the older levels. Like, imagine Classic Cream,
yeah.
Classic Shadow, Classic Omega.
Well, do you think that's where they should go next, is trying to incorporate more of those modern Sonic elements, as it were, into the classic formula?
I think it would be an interesting idea to do it, because one level that I think should have been in Sonic Mania that would have been really nice to see would be Ice Cap, because they could have easily added elements from Sonic 3's Ice Cap and Sonic Adventure's Ice Cap.
Yeah, that's true.
Just as an example.
I'm actually surprised, because I thought that was sort of considered one of the most popular levels from Sonic 3.
Well, if they had to remix levels, then what about bringing newer levels and putting them into the 16-bit style? Like, imagine in City Escape being played on a Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's the original. It's not an original level, but it's being remixed so
It would feel
so
like
much more
an
heavily
original
than the original
Yeah,
was.
it would feel like an original experience in this context, I reckon. Something else that I was sort of surprised about is that they didn't take more cues from the Game Gear Sonic games. I think they included the bubble mechanic from Hydrocity was from Sonic 1, I think, on the Game Gear, or
I think so. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
it was from one of the Game Gear games anyway. But I mean, aside from, I guess you could count Fang's inclusion as a reference to those games. I'm just surprised they didn't incorporate more mechanics or even zones.
Oh hell, I would have liked to have seen a 16-bit version of Bridge Zone. Because why not?
I don't know. It was just sort of another one of those, I guess, notable omissions that I was sort of just like, oh, I low-key really expected to see, like, oh yeah, here's a level from Sonic Triple Trouble, and it just wasn't there, which I guess is fair enough, but it's
especially because they referenced Knuckles Chaotix in the game as well, so it was really a anything's possible.
Yeah.
So just not seeing it, it feels a little bit out of place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to no fault of the game, but it was sort of like one of those things that I just expected to see and didn't. But what can you do, I guess?
Well, another thing I would have liked to have seen is not just have blue spheres, but have some of the other special areas from Sonic 3, and also have some things in it. Well, have blue spheres actually contribute to the ring total.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I mean that's also something that on a second playthrough felt the blue spheres felt really inconsequential, because once you realise that it's just a part of the or that all you're getting out of it are the medals or whatever, it's like, oh, okay, well, it doesn't contribute to the campaign that I'm playing now, so it sort of ends up feeling a bit irrelevant. And I guess it is irrelevant. It's a bonus stage, so it doesn't really matter. But you don't get a reward like in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. You got rings or an item box or a 1-up or whatever, and they just it just, once again, it's not something that's to the detriment of the game. It's like, oh, I'm just surprised that wasn't there.
Yeah, especially because we both played this on the Nintendo Switch, so we don't have to have things like achievements. We don't have achievements, so yeah, like there's no reason for us to get the gold medals, for example.
Yeah.
But anyway, we should probably wrap this up. Do you have any closing thoughts?
I guess for the most part, the thing I loved Sonic Mania more than I've loved possibly any game since the classic era. My only thing is, I just feel like I would have wanted it to be a more new, more fresh experience. I would have wanted those new levels. I would have wanted, playable Amy, just more, just
yeah,
a few extra steps to make it feel like a new game.
Yeah, it comes so close, and I can appreciate the fact that they've done so much in this, because I'm not going to hate this game. It's a really good game, but it's so close to that perfect status that it just needed that little bit more, just a few little things here and there that it just didn't have. I don't know what those little things would have been, aside from things like Classic Amy announced, well, not announced, just be unlockable. Just little things like that. It just needed that extra thing.
Yeah.
At least on the plus side, it does come a lot closer than some of the more modern Sonic games. And for me, one of the things it really makes me want is, because I'm more of a Pokemon fan than I am a Sonic fan, I would like a Mania approach to like a Pokemon game where it brings in more of the older stuff, but it doesn't need to hold your hand for it.
Yeah.
Like, it assumes you have a basic competency of the games, which, unfortunately, Pokemon's starting to lose its teeth a lot.
Yeah.
But that's probably something to be discussed in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon at the rate it's going.
Yeah.
We do need to keep on track for this. I am trying to keep us on rails.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Well, whenever you're discussing Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, that's something you can go into.
Yeah. Oh, I probably will.
Yeah.
Because I've been dancing around that for a while now. I need to get into it properly. It might even be its own opinion piece.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, thanks very much for having me.
No problem. Now to just rope you back into it for forces.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Along with Deancy, we should probably get around to doing that movie commentary, shouldn't we?
I am definitely not looking forward to Forces, but hey, that's for Forces. And it helps, could prove me wrong. It could prove me wrong. I hope it does.
If it helps, it's not the worst thing that's going to be happening this year. I get to subject myself to not only one Michael Bay Transformers movie, not only 2 Michael Bay Transformers movies, but 3 Michael Bay Transformers movies in a row.
I thought you were going to say 4. Have you already done the first? Or
yeah, the way it's going to happen is Marissa and I are going to do movie commentaries on the first 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get to look forward to the Twins and Devastatables. Again.
Fair enough.
And then I've got to review The Last Night because I'm a Transformers fan and I like to hate myself, apparently.
Oh, well, who doesn't? I mean...
Be grateful I'm not roping you into that torture.
I am grateful. Oh, well. But yeah, I mean, here's hoping Forces is good, and here's hoping that Mania 2 or whatever it is 100% new stuff, new levels, please. Fingers crossed.
Please.
Yeah.
Or just give us classic gaming and cream and I'll be happy.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming on and being a part of this discussion again.
Alright, until next time.
See you guys.
Ta-da.